Hi everybody, Steve from Reshift Media here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some major digital trends that every retailer should be aware of, specific to COVID-19. We've brought together some US and Canadian stats in an effort to bring you the most recent data we can and paint a bit of a picture for some of the trends that we're seeing. So the first chart I wanted to show you was this one from ComScore, which includes data for Amazon, Target, Walmart, Costco, and Best Buy all combined together. Why this is interesting is because it gives a really good picture of what's happening in the US retail space for some of the biggest retailers. What we see here is that through February, traffic was pretty steady, a bit of a bump at the start of March, which isn't too surprising. It's probably more cyclical than anything to do with COVID-19. But then what we see is a bit of a flatlining through the first part of March as COVID-19 is starting to hit, and then it skyrockets thereafter. Again, that's probably a picture you're all familiar with because as COVID-19 is hit, people are now buying online and not being able to go in store. But what I like about this is that ComScore has actually quantified it. So they're showing an 11% increase from February till about the third week of March, which is a really substantial increase for these retailers. So it just demonstrates how much people are really gone online to buy. I like this chart because it's numbers self-reported by retailers telling us what they're seeing in terms of e-commerce revenue. So what this chart shows is actually a bit of a tale of two cities. On one hand, retailers were reporting that through February and March, about 50% said that their e-commerce revenues were actually down, which jives with some of the other data we've been seeing, particularly for non-critical categories. So if you're in grocery or if you sell hand sanitizer or other things like that, you've probably seen a pretty good increase in online sales. But if you're in non-critical categories, like apparel as an example, you may have seen a decrease at the first part of March, even into the back half of March, simply because people were holding onto their cash and they weren't feeling too secure in terms of purchases. What this chart shows, though, that's quite encouraging, is through about the first half of April, retailers, about 68% of retailers are reporting that their e-commerce sales are either up somewhat or up substantially. So that's really encouraging because it may be a bit of a leading indicator that customers are now adjusting to their new normal, maybe feeling a little more financially secure, and maybe starting to buy some of those things that they've been putting off as COVID-19 has hit. So that's a very encouraging sign with really new data that we're seeing. Switching to Canada to give you a bit of a view, this is the latest data we could get from ComScore that shows sort of the second week of March compared to the third week of March in terms of traffic trends. So the retail sector is only showing about a 4% increase in UVs, 5% increase in visits, which is pretty small, but this was a little bit ahead of that bump I just showed you for the US, so it's not super surprising that we're not seeing a big bump there yet. What we did is we dug into specific categories to see if some categories were having different impacts, and we did see that some categories in particular are doing quite well. On the screen behind me, you can see books, sports, outdoor, and toys are all up double digits. And an interesting one we're really keeping our eye on is apparel. As I mentioned a minute ago, the apparel category was hit pretty hard when COVID-19 hit. And it's interesting to see a little bit of a bounce here between that second and third week of March in Canada, where minutes are up 26% and visits are up 8%. And this chart's really encouraging. It's really recent data for the US, which shows through March, apparel retailers were reporting that their e-commerce sales were well below expectations. So in fact, 49% of retailers were, apparel retailers specifically, were saying that their sales were significantly below their plan. Now you take that into the first half of April and the results are actually the exact opposite. We're now 37% are saying that they're ahead of where they expected to be significantly, and 12% slightly ahead. So that's a really nice leading indicator. Again, maybe apparel sales are starting to come back a little bit. Maybe people are starting to feel more comfortable, feeling a little more financially secure. So we're very much keeping our eye on this category as we think it's a bit of a leading indicator as to overall customer buying. In terms of major takeaways from this quick snapshot, there's no doubt that online buying is the new normal for your customers. You need to be keeping an eye on your trends and seeing if the trends that we just reported here are impacting your business in any way, shape, or form. There's no doubt that e-commerce continues to grow. I would expect to see this continue to grow through April. And as long as people have to stay away from stores, of course, we should see that happening more and more. And we're seeing some really positive indicators in the economy that it may be that consumers are starting to buy a bit more, maybe starting to buy some of those things that they've been putting off. So as a retailer, keep an eye on your traffic, keep an eye on what's happening in your sales, and see if there's any products where you may have some bright spots that you can focus on. I really hope you found this informative. If you have any questions or if you'd like access to any of this information, you can always get a hold of me through the Retail Council of Canada, or feel free to email me directly at steve@reshiftmedia.com. Thank you and have a great day.